Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to call to order this board meeting for the Pasadena Juvenile Service Center Board of Directors. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ross?
Present.
Commissioner Jackson?
Here.
Commissioner Hill?
Here.
Commissioner Hill?
Here.
Commissioner Jackson?
Here.
Thank
Thank you very much. Amendments to the agenda. You have a revised version in front of you. Seeing none, I'll look for an approval of the minutes from our last board meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Minutes are approved. I did not have any sign up for public forum. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak to this board? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 5 and get an update from our Chief Administrator, Mr. Bivens.
First we'll start off just saying, I want to thank my staff. They're the most hardworking, dedicated bunch. My core staff, my captain, my executive assistant, the acting lieutenant, who's getting paid as an officer, but she has really stepped up and is really performing well, exceptionally well. So I just want to say thank you to them first and foremost. I'm proud to say we had our first graduate from high school since we last met. So that was exciting for him and for us. He has since been released from custody and plans on going to learn trade of welding. So it's very exciting. I'm not going to take up too much time. I'm going to defer most of my time to Mr. Hart. I know everybody's anxious to hear from him. A couple of other things real quick. If things go according to plan, or my plan, I guess, we're going to be having another academy class here next month, about 5 people. So we're excited about that. A couple of things on the physical plant real quick. We're establishing a Wi-Fi in the facility, throughout the facility, that's going to help us on multiple fronts, including medical, and also we're going to expand the use of Quest, which is our computer system. Currently it's only being used in the booking area, so there's some likelihood or potential of using tablets for the staff so they can just basically click for security checks and things of that nature. So we're excited about that opportunity as well. We're also actively looking for some grant funding. You guys have seen the gymnasium, for example, how vast it is. Like painting murals in there for the kids, so it's something that we're working on. Along with just updating policies and procedures, security plans, things of that nature. We've added another habit comfort dog, so we have 2 of those now that's coming in every week. Very excited about that. Juveniles really enjoy that. So we're just continuing to work forward. Like I said, I'm not going to bore you with all these details. If you guys have any questions on my report, I'll be more than happy to address any of them.
Questions for Mr. Bivens? We got a lot to get to, so we're gonna reclaim your time and keep on moving. Item number 6. Thank you for the work and continued. I know every day you're sort of trying to get us caught up and updated. A lot of work that's going into it. We talk regularly. Item number 6. I'm asking for a vote from this board as a recommendation to send back to the full commission our original ordinance that established this board and oversight, which was ordinance O-25-6102 and resolution R-25-6-903, outlined that we had a timeline of essentially 6 months from July 1 to December 31, established this board, and then turned over operational control on January 1st to the sheriff of Knox County. And it's clear by the reports that we're going to talk about today, the work that Mr. Bivens is doing, some of the budgetary concerns, some of the operational concerns, that it's not ready yet to flip that switch on January 1st. We also talked to Sheriff quite extensively. He has a transition team working on it. They're just not ready to start immediately. And we're also learning from other partners what our options are for how we're going to run the program. Mr. Bivens is still trying to just get staffing underway, much less sort of chew away at it. And I think that most of it, I would advocate that we want to do it right. We don't want to do it fast. And there's been a lot of transition. We also learned a tremendous amount of that we didn't know 6 months ago when we started this ordinance and started this process. So essentially the process would be asking this board to discuss and to vote to extend that, both the resolution and the ordinance through June 30th and have operational controls switch. It would stay the same in those two ordinances. It would just, the timeline would change to July 1 instead of January 1. And if for some reason we were able to do it sooner, we could, adjust that. But give us a little bit more breathing room. We would then, if it came out of this board as a recommendation, it would then go to commission on the November agenda. We discuss it again, and the commission would have the ultimate authority to extend those two resolutions and potentially move it forward. So open that up for, I need a motion and a second before we discuss it.
I'll make the motion for the extension, 6 months extension on both these ordinances.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. Any discussion on that?
I would like to delay a vote on this until after the CTAS presentation, because I think that there's some information in this report that is pertinent to probably this discussion.
Okay, so you want to move this discussion back until, you want to do it at the very end? But after the presentation of the App Center as well?
Yeah, let's do it after that.
All right, I'm happy to do that. We'll move that back. Well, we'll move right on to the CTAS assessment. If you'll remember, as part of the ordinance, as part of the work we did last year, we asked CTAS and our partnership there to come in and do a full assessment. We're welcoming here today Mr. Jim Hart and his associate. That document has been sent to you all, and it is available to others through media requests and open records requests. And Mr. Hart's here to both give us a summary, executive summary, answer any questions. There's no vote needed on this today, and there's no action item needed on this today. So I imagine there'll still be plenty of time for us to digest it before we go forward. So, Mr. Hart, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for having me here today. My name is Jim Hart. I work with the University of Tennessee's County Technical Assistance Service, or referred to as CTAS. We were requested by the chairperson of the Knox County Commission in July to assess your Juvenile Services Center. There was regular coordination and communication with the mayor's office through Mr. Dwight Vanderbeek. The goal of this assessment that we were asked to do was to evaluate your current policies and procedures, staffing, overall operations, compliance with standards, facility conditions, and just make some recommendations or some suggestions for improvement. This assessment commenced with a 3-day on-site visit, August 5th through the 7th, where I had interviewed numerous people, did a lot of document review, data analysis, and just my personal observations of operations and looking through behind closed doors and those type of things throughout the facility. Part of the assessment asked for an evaluation of staffing. I used the National Institute of Corrections Staffing Analysis Workbook for jails model, which is applicable for prisons, jails, juvenile detention facilities, and made some minor adaptations for this juvenile detention center. You have a 120-bed secure facility. It houses Knox County, surrounding counties, as well as contracts with the Department of Children's Services. In 2024, your average daily population was 31 residents. 2025, that reduced to 25, and then since Chief Bivens has been running the operation, he's further reduced it, trying to restrict the number of DCS children coming into custody, as well as other counties. And it's done that with, in my mind, a wise move to, one, get the staffing up to ensure safe and secure operations, to invest in training with them, and then to start investing in policy procedure development, some of the practices that, to enhance those. Looking over those 2-year period, about 75% of the residents detained in this facility are Knox County youth. A couple of key findings, you have the report, it's quite lengthy, but a couple of key findings as it relates to staffing and scheduling. There are 66 budgeted positions. Things that I noted were staffing shortages, an inadequate relief factor, frozen vacant positions due to having the Knox County Human Resources having to credit back some vacation time and sick time to employees that has led to those leaving, freezing some of those positions for a period of time. In 2024, there were 7,700 hours of overtime used. Through August of 25, there were 4,533 hours of overtime used. 87% of that overtime was by line corrections officers. Looking at a couple different weeks of scheduling, I found that employees are regularly working 16-hour shifts and several employees working 7 straight days over periods of time. I heard more of that, those conversations of the double shifts and the multiple work days in a row working didn't validate all of the discussions, but I did pick out a couple of weeks and took a look at that and found that to be true. There's a lack of supervisory structure. There's no formal shift supervisors running and operating the shifts. Now, Chief Bivens has placed officers in charge now that are just sort of taking the lead role on the shifts, which is a wise move. I found poor record keeping, archaic manual systems such as data policies, procedures, tracking of employee time off, training, documentation of training of staff, and then duplication of efforts of various security logs. And I'll talk a little bit more about the relief factor here in a moment. The staff that I interacted with throughout the 3 days on site appeared to be committed to doing a good job. I truly believe that their heart is in the right place of trying to operate effectively and efficiently. However, I felt that they've been hamstrung for a period of time. Been hamstrung by outdated policies and procedures, marginal and limited training. A lot of conversations about all decisions are made from the front office versus having supervisory staff on shifts making some of those decisions to move forward. There was no indication of development of leaders, leadership development, getting people prepared for future responsibilities. Excessive paper documentation. I found a lot of poor entries coming from my background in the jail world. If it's not written down, it didn't happen. And so if we try to defend ourselves, should there be a significant incident or issue, having the proper documentation to support what happened, why it happened, how it happened, what actions do we take appeared to be marginal. There was no supervisory review to ensure that reports that were written were accurate, or that there wasn't a need for supplemental reports to sort of add a little bit more information to what actually happened and what actions were taken. A lot of duplication of entries. You had sheets of entries were made of, we'll say, different rounds, and you had logbook entries, just a lot of duplication of efforts that could have been reduced. Looking at the overall sanitation and sort of surface of the functioning facility, everything that you see sort of in plain sight, housing units, hallways, those things are out in the open. I found to be very well maintained, taken care of, clean and orderly. But when you start opening doors and you start looking in areas that are not routinely used, those areas, the conditions in other areas, in my mind, were unsatisfactory at best. So it was sort of an out of sight, out of mind kind of care, if you will. Chief Bivens and his team have committed to cleaning. They've committed to enhancing training programs through collaboration with the Sheriff's Office. There's been new programs that have been introduced relating to substance use, mental health, some chaplaincy services, and updating the policies and procedures to give the staff the tools that they need to be current in their duties. Looking at medical and food service, I think that in general, the healthcare operations was sort of working in the blind, if you will, because there was no written protocols, no written formulary to sort of got like the policy and procedures that sort of tell us, the security staff have to operate those protocols, tell what are the do's and don'ts for the line level or the nurse to perform. Those are being updated, were started updating back in August when I was present. The health department was aggressively working on updating those protocols. One of the things that was concerning to me is medication verification and documentation for new intakes. It was sort of an inconsistent process. If there was a nurse available, then that nurse would verify that medication. But after hours and weekends, when there was no nurse coverage, a corrections officer would verify or try their best to verify the medication and ensure that the medication was given to the resident during their next bill call to make certain that it wasn't missed. Good faith effort, but not necessarily wise practice. Food quality was excellent. Portion sizes were excellent. However, food menus are not dietitian approved. Menus don't reflect portion sizes. Menus don't reflect calorie counts. There's also a lack of clarity when I started asking questions about special diets relating to medical and religious. I don't think that I got a good sense that they fully understood what some of those issues were. My feeling is that there is a need for a full-time, experienced food service manager to run that kitchen, and there's a need for, my comment is a part-time nurse that would give weekend coverage and then also coverage during weekdays when the full-time nurse might be out sick, training, vacation, or some other type of absence from the facility. Looking at security and physical plant, key control and chemical control were totally inadequate. There are significant blind spots for the camera systems throughout the building. Non-functioning intercom systems from security doors to the control center. There's no perimeter fence that enables the public just to walk right up to the recreation fences when residents are outside recreating. The general public can just walk right up to the fence to communicate or pass something through if they wanted to attempt that. Fire evacuation routes, if you were to take a look at them, it looks like a confusing set of circles and lines and arrows all over it. That makes absolutely no sense. It sort of is a little concerning because now does that relate to overall fire evacuation practices in general. There's need for technology upgrades, locking systems. I believe that there's 34 cameras that are needed to support the coverage of the blind spots throughout the building. Communication systems, and then the computer hardware and software that will support the new technology for the building. I had an opportunity to talk to the teachers and the personnel overseeing Knox County schools, and they appear to be very committed to what they're trying to accomplish there for the residents. One of their biggest challenges, actually two big challenges, one of them is the rapid turnover of residents. It's a short stay, and it's hard to really make a long-term investment for those kids. About 82% of the residents in the facility stay less than 10 days, so it's a very rapid turnover for them. But they try to do what they can to support the percentage. Between 76 and 82%, sir. And that's in the report, so. Chief Bivens has mentioned the social worker and some of the programs that the department or Knox County schools have added to help the kids that are in custody. One thing that he mentioned to me the other day, and it's in the report, but kids are given dessert for lunch and for dinner every day, a healthy portion of dessert. And one of the things I suggested is that as a dietitian evaluates the menu, maybe substitute one of those desserts with a fruit, a healthy option. And one of the things that Chief Bivens has implemented is a fruit at the end of every school day. Gives the kids a fruit just to help reduce some of that hunger into dinner, if you will. The second thing that the school system has done is they have, at their expense, funded for Wi-Fi for the classrooms to support the programs that they're delivering there. And then Chief Bivens has also mentioned the tablets that are being pursued with the collaboration through the Sheriff's Office. Did you have your licensing assessment yesterday?
Yes, sir.
And did that go thumbs up or sort of?
It has to be approved by Nashville, but it in my opinion, it went very well.
Okay, and that's a great thing. The prior to that, the last licensing was 2023. You will notice in the report in the
This is from the state and DCS?
DCS user.
Okay, so they had an inspection yesterday.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but the last time we were officially licensed and approved, this facility was 2023?
Three. When you look at the findings, there's a specific section in the report relating to the individual juvenile detention standards. There are significant findings. Some of the findings are just actual practices that they're not in compliance. Some of them are that the policies and procedures are dated, they're not up to date, or there may be some absence. A lot of those deficiencies or findings, if you will, are not insurmountable. It's develop a policy procedure, implement some training, evaluate, ensure that the practices are implemented. It's those kind of things that a lot of the findings will can play out, if you will. When I look at the staffing plan, I evaluated two different proposals. One of them is an 8-hour shift, security shift, and the second one is a 12-hour security shift. And I added, after discussions with Chief Bivens and my observations of what we're trying to accomplish, there were several positions that were added, and I'll talk about those in a second. Under the 8-hour security shift positions, it increases it to a total of 73.5 FTEs. And under the 12-hour shift configuration, it increased it to a total of 83.5. That's not additional positions, that's just the total numbers.
Is that driven mostly by state ratios of how many officers or how many personnel to juveniles and the vast size of the facility?
So, and this does not include staffing all the units. We did not propose a staffing plan for, I think it was 2 units that have been shut down for some time. So this plan does not include that. This plan doesn't include manning several of the control centers. So it's a combination of things. One is to try to meet the standards of the 1-to-8 ratio. One of the discussions I had with DCS was if we get 9 kids in custody in that particular unit, can we reduce the staffing after hours when they're in bed, if you will? And they said that the way that they interpret the standards that was permitted. That's why the 8-hour shift is 10 positions shorter than the 12-hour shift, which we'd have to have it basically 24/7 kind of covered.
Does that include food service?
This includes everything, from his position, that sir. The other thing that it includes is the relief factor in this, and then these few positions I'm going to mention here right now, so in that total number. So the new positions that we are suggesting is a corporal position for compliance and classification. The compliance position would be a person that is responsible for basically monitoring the state standards. If the agency determines that they would like to pursue the American Correctional Association standards or accreditation, and the Prison Rape Elimination Act standards. The other thing that this position will be doing is being sort of like the lead person in development and updating policies and procedures, making certain they're communicated to staff, and ensuring compliance with various standards throughout the facility. Their secondary role would be that as a classification position, and that would be to identify the individual risks and needs of every resident that comes into confinement or into detention, and then ensuring that they're placed properly in the facility based on those individual risks and needs. The other thing that we suggested is converting the front lobby desk from a corrections officer position to a civilian position. I've already mentioned the food service manager position and a part-time nurse. We're suggesting a social services position, a safety and sanitation officer, a facility training officer to invest in the training needs that are there for not only just basic training needs, in-service needs, and then to work towards that leadership development for staff. An operations lieutenant, which is currently in place, but to fund it for that position, that will be overall responsible for overall security operations of the facility. Formalizing the shift supervisor positions as sergeants. It's interesting that in the policies and procedures that they're not dated, that they refer to a shift supervisor, but there's no one in those positions other than now with that duty officer in charge position has been just assigned as an officer on shift. And then the final position, additional position being recommended is an assistant shift supervisor corporal that will also serve as sort of intake release and responsible for property, the juvenile property operations. One of my concerns with this is that those positions that have to be manned, those relief positions, meaning those officers that are physically working the shifts. There's been some inadequate record keeping as it relates to time off, which I'm certain you all are aware of. But areas such as FMLA, bereavement, training, military time, suspensions, and other areas that Knox County has approved as authorized time off for employees has not been well documented. And as such, the relief factor that has been calculated here is based on the best estimate that human resources will be able to provide them. That's going to take some long time. Typically, when I evaluate a jail for staffing, I look at a 3-year period that gives me sort of those trends, those ups and downs of employees. We were only able to get some very minimal data for 2025. So, some conclusions. Operations and technology are dated. There has been some significant progress that has been made already since August, but I question if it's sustainable without adequate resources and funding to support that continued change and progress. This facility serves a critical regional need for other counties. There's only 549 beds in Tennessee. 120 of those is this facility. I am a jail person. However, the last couple of years, I've been getting more and more involved in juvenile detention issues across the state. And if I've talked to one, I've talked to a dozen juvenile services officers that express extreme frustration trying to find bed space. And then once finding bed space, trying to keep that bed space. It's sort of at a premium for children. I hear from county commissioners, county mayors all the time about their kids are 3 counties away or 4 counties away being housed, and what do we say to their parents that are trying to stay in touch with them, communication with them. So closing the facility, if that were to be an option, would shift costs to transportation needs, medical expenses that you'd still be required to cover, daily per diem rates. Somebody's going to have to find the beds. Someone's going to have to stay in constant contact with those juvenile detention centers to keep those beds when those occur. And then handling all the transports requirements that will come up. The other thing that I think there's a significant concern if we were to reduce 120 beds out of that total statewide inventory, Knox County is in a position trying to compete for those resources with every other county that doesn't have a local juvenile detention center. So what I'm suggesting is adopt the 8-hour coverage plan, fund and staff those critical support positions if we want to really do it right. I'm happy to hear that your licensing assessment went well yesterday. Continue that, continue to modernize your policies, your procedures, your practices. Fund for the cameras, the doors, locks, communication devices, and record system upgrades. Implement the facility training officer program, invest in training. I'm glad that the collaboration with the sheriff's office is going well in that capacity. Continue to invest in that and then invest in leadership development for the future. We also identified a need for a security perimeter fence. And then an assessment looking at any kind of capital physical plant and major systems, capital improvement plans, thinking about 3 to 5 to 10-year plan for any kind of improvements that we need there. One thing I also believe is that the overtime needs to be addressed, and I think that there needs to be better controls on that overtime, sort of documenting the why and looking at different categories of things that Chief, you could be reporting to this board of what we're doing, how we're better managing some of those type of issues. I think that you have an opportunity with this building. The bones of the building, in my mind, are very strong, very secure. You have someone in a position that is a visionary, someone that has already started establishing some collaboration with the community. And I think that you have an opportunity to really do some unique things here. I think that there's also potential use for further expansion of housing of other counties or DCS children in the facility. One thing though, if that was to be considered, is that I really think you need to get a good idea of what the actual cost per day to house someone in this facility is. And then work those contracts or those agreements to charge that amount to help offset some of the expenses that you've incurred with the operation of this facility. I'd like to thank Mayor Jacobs, Dwight Vanderbeek, Chief Bivens, his team for the great work that they've been doing. And I want to finish because Chief Bivens had said this, I don't know how many times to me throughout this process. What he has said is regardless what happens in the future, everything that we do, everything that his team does, is for the kids. And that's it.
Thank you very much for the report. Open up to the board for questions. I'm sure you'll have more later as well as you digest it in a deeper way, but give you all the opportunity to.
Well, I just did just little math here, because it costs us, if I just look at average kids, and take our, statement of expenditure, revenues and expenditures, it costs us about, I think about $800 a day. So I just did some math here, based on your recommendation between 73.5 and 83.5 FTEs. If I figure an all-in cost with salary and benefits of $70,000 each, that comes out to $14,383 per day. If you had on average 30 kids in here, which I think that's probably about average, is that right? That's $479 per child per day, just salaries and overhead. So, and I think we're getting what from DCS?
185.
185.
It's more expensive because of the ratios you have to have per state law. The facility itself and the operational costs, but it's also not dissimilar on a statewide level from our detention facility. Our detention facility, I think, the last time we approached the state, we were $187 a day or something, and they provide 120 something for reimbursement for holding the state prisoners that will eventually go to another state facility, maybe. It's far underwater. I think that the state, well, I know the state knows that, and I know that the state, through the new assessment, the TASER report that is coming out, will probably talk about that. And the state is in desperate need of space, but for some reason never want to fund it on an adequate level. It's definitely more expensive here.
The reason why I wanted to wait to discuss the extension is because I'm afraid that what we're going to get into is an extend and pretend that we're extending it, and what is our game plan? What's our business plan? Where do we hope to go on this? And I don't know if, are we wanting to just have 30 to 35 children in here, and or you mentioned, expanding it to, in your report, you mentioned that there's an opportunity, or was asked about an opportunity of mental health facility or homeless shelter. Is there a way of, there are other things that can be done with this facility, and that's my concern, is that we're going to extend this thing until June, and then you're going to have a new sheriff coming in August. I don't think that we should extend to June. I think we should just extend until the new sheriff comes in and let the new sheriff make that decision. But until then, I think we need to be thinking on we need to strategically think, where are we going?
Yeah, that's the role of this board, and that's the role of the team. one of the rationale between extending to June 30 is that any decisions we do make in that period of time starts a new budget cycle on July 1. Right now, we're under all kinds of, we're finding out what things have cost. We're continuing to find more costs, more deferments. The budget for this facility is in flux every day, and it gives a fresh start for a new budget cycle. It's a lot of impetus in that. I wouldn't extend it further beyond that, because whatever decisions we make between now and then are going to be in place no matter what. We operate a jail and we operate all kinds of things regardless of who the elected official is. So that's sort of why we had a 6-month window that we wondered, could we do it quickly? Once we got into understanding how many headwinds we had, it was just clear that we needed more runway. But that is the role of this board. There are lots of options that have been discussed and will continue to be discussed. As Mr. Hart said, if we, there is no requirement from the state that we operate a juvenile detention facility, but we do. And Judge Irwin will tell you, as well as Mr. Hart will tell you, if we didn't, and any juvenile that was under our custody would hear, the nearest places, would be Blunt or Loudoun if they had beds. And as he's spoken about, for instance, in Montgomery County, when I was up there during Leadership Tennessee, they talked about that all the juveniles that they had were 3-4 counties away, and so that transportation back and forth, Judge Irwin will tell you the logistics of that are expensive regardless of what it takes, the toll it takes.
I hear my brethren all across the state crying for beds, not for placement beds, but for detention beds. Tom Shumpert, when he built this place under his tenure, overbuilt. It's the only thing I can think of in Knox County that was overbuilt. It seems like everything else has gotten even more crowded. Whoever thought there'd be a traffic jam going east on 40? We thought, man, they really overbuilt that interstate. Now it's packed just like going west. But the 120 beds over time, I believe the need, but also when you do your figures, if you add 10 kids, that ratio, that doesn't mean those 10 kids lower that per day. Even if you have to add an officer, they lower that cost per day. The reason it's so high right now is it's been kept artificially low by our lack of staff. And believe me, in the courts, we're doing everything we can do to keep a kid from being back there. If they're not too dangerous to let out, they're let out. They're let out with ankle monitors, they're let out. We use community service. We do everything we can to keep that population artificially low. I mean, we're not a fiefdom over here, we're part of a team. Our teammates are detention, DCS, sheriff, KPD, Helen Ross McNabb, other organizations, but I don't think that number, if you had more kids, it would pull the cost per day down than going up. So I don't know, the math's way above my ability to do it.
But you're not off course.
But you're not off, you're probably not off with the number we got right now.
Yeah, and you're not off course in thinking that this is the role of this board, along with the partnerships with the sheriff and mayor's office and everybody else, is to determine what does this facility look like. I think we're well past the point of saying, and look, we are the regional leader. There is a role and a responsibility we have. And it's a very hard thing to do. And so sometimes when you're the regional leader in anything, you shoulder a lot of that burden. The question is, how do we utilize our space wisely? How do we negotiate better? Right now, there are no actual contracts with other counties who don't have bed space. And how do we negotiate a better reimbursement for those? How do we find out from DCS what, maybe there's a section of the building that could be renovated to be more of a DCS holding facility than a jail detention side that they would see value in, and they might put some skin in the game to help support that if they have a lack of bed space for children. That's would all reduce the amount of overhead that Knox County taxpayers would be on the hook for, and the investment that we would make. So we have to balance all that out.
I get it, but I mean, as we went through here, I mean, it's like one thing after the other. It's like, that's money, that's money, that's money. And one other thing is that the 75 FTEs, how many juveniles does that oversee? Is that the entire thing, or is that just where we are currently?
So that will support, I think, every housing unit, every position imposed except for 2 housing units that have been shut down for some period of time. So we did not do a staffing configuration for 2 of them.
So do you know how many beds that would be?
I don't remember what the,
Is that
36?
free hogs?
36,
How many?
36.
So 36 of the 120 have been shut down and have not been used.
36 out of the 120.
Out of the 120, so that would be up to 90 something, you know, or 80 something.
84,
All right.
So,
86.
It's got kind of this thing where, you know, you gotta get to this break even point. You gotta, like you said, Judge.
Yeah.
You know, the more, I mean, not that we need to be putting a lot of children in here, but, you know, the more children you have, that average cost goes down.
and we will never be at a break-even perspective. I mean, the business of running a jail is financially not, you're never going to be, it's part of the cost of running a county and a community. So I don't think we're ever gonna be under a pretense that we're not gonna have this as part of our annual budget. It's gonna be
In
a
addition to
reimbursement to
detention-
even.
In addition to detention youth, we also have DCS youth as well, correct?
Not currently.
Not, but we have.
If we hadn't persistently insisted that you have to get your kids out now, there would typically be 15 to 20 DCS kids back there waiting on placements. They desperately need our space too. They're willing to pay for it, probably willing to pay a premium for it.
Our current numbers are low, purposely, because I need to run every single staff through a 40-hour in-service. So we've blocked off the first 3 weeks of November to get that done. Once that's completed, our numbers will go back up. I get a minimum of 5 to 6 emails a day from DCS on a bed, a minimum. So that's 25, at least 25, 30.
But we also have the facility has to change, like a DC hold is not a lockdown detention.
Exactly. So how do we separate?
Yeah.
Well, it's
I know
a
in the
physical.
past, prior to
Well,
us coming,
there's a couple categories. There's one category where we have adjudicated a kid and placed the child in custody, and they sit here till they got somewhere to go.
As an adult.
No,
So they have a.
I mean, we adjudicate them and say, we find these charges are true, and we sentence you to the Department of Children's Services Juvenile Justice, which means Mountain View or some equivalent, and they sit in our detention facility until the state gets a bed. And
That could be how long?
it's usually 30 days or longer. Minimum. We're happy if we get one out within 30 days.
And most of the time when they're requesting a bed, it's a detention bed.
Uh-huh.
So some of this is physical plant. The utilization of the space would have to be, we would have to do some renovations physically to.
The way that works, so once they're adjudicated and placed in DCS custody, they begin to pay for those beds. Now, what that rate is, I think it's $185 a day. Those kids, while they may not pay the full amount, they offset the bottom line still. And so it's good business to cut your prices to keep some of those kids. But they also don't have a lot to lose because they've been adjudicated and they know they're going to be somewhere possibly till their 19th birthday, so they're harder to control. So that's all that. And we have kids here from Chattanooga. We have kids here historically from everywhere across the state. And my people that work back there can tell you which kids are the toughest. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised which the toughest counties are. Chattanooga would be one of them, 100%.
When you think about DCS, you're thinking about just a runaway or something like that. That's not always the case. Some of these kids are extremely violent, gang members, and they are most of the time the most difficult to deal with.
Runaways, if they're back here at all, it's because we don't know where to put them and they get out the next day to go to a shelter. That's not who we have back here. We have people back here that are dangerous to themselves or others. That's why they're back here. Or they've been adjudicated and they're waiting. Or they've been warned 15 times not to do a certain thing and they do it the 16th time. something like that, but it's I don't want to dominate the discussion when you get back on task, but it's a real hard, it's real hard to put a pen and pencil to that number. It would take a very good mathematician to figure it all out, particularly in the shape the records are in right now.
Yeah, I do think that the long-term cost of everything is a long ways away from being known until we level out all the things we're dealing with to catch up, all of the staffing and personnel issues, all the money that's being used to, to leave or get left on people and employees, and then understand that the capital needs of the facility. So it may be years before we level out what does it actually run when it's run well versus this catch-up plan. So it may be a while. But any other questions for Mr. Hart? I want to wrap this part of the agenda up.
Not for Mr. Hart, but Mr. Bevin. So if we scale it to 73, 83, 88, how many holds do we have per the old folks that have left that we're paying out, that we have the pension holds on?
Currently, I want to say 6. Is that right, man?
We're holding 5 open positions to pay out everybody.
Okay. Currently 5.
5. And then those are on, like, those are on a scale, like a shifted scale from like January to.
We know exactly when we can hire for that position. We're hiring for them already.
Okay.
And there's 5 positions we can't hire until the fiscal year ends, so.
Under the current budget. And the appropriation. Mr. Hart?
Did you do any kind of I know you did the assessment looking at the building and some of the things you said you saw behind closed doors and all. Did you do an entire building assessment? I mean, did you look at everything we've got and have any opinions on what else it can be used for?
I didn't give any recommendations on what else it could be used for. The building is solid. Did I look at everything in this building? Oh, yes. Yes, ma'am. We looked behind every door, every closet. We did. And back in August when I did my on-site visit, there was a lot of work being done to clean and organize and make office spaces, those type of things. So you have a very solid building. But I did not make any suggestions about, I take that back. There was one comment, I was reached out to by, I think, 2 different persons that said, what if we were to rent the bed space out to sort of an other kind of function, substance abuse or mental health or whatever it may be. Certainly it's an option, but there's the mechanics of that option that have to be considered. How are you going to feed them? How are you going to process them in and out? How are you going to keep them separated from the kids? What is medical response going to look like? All those nuts and bolts that would go with that if you were still operating a juvenile services center in addition to whatever that other function might be. And I did comment about that inside the report.
Thank you, and I hadn't had a chance to read that report yet, but I will before our next meeting. I kind of hear what Shane is alluding to in this time frame of whether we do or don't extend. I also hear what Larson is saying about it may take years to fix all these problems. In the meantime, though, this board, as I understand, we have been tasked with coming up with a plan for who is going to, in fact, take over. Because we can't sit here and hope. I mean, right now this is so overwhelming, you just drown when you think about it. But this really isn't our role. Our role is not to go in and fix all of these. Our role is to determine what's the best direction to go for who is going to come in and pick up where we're leaving off and
Sort
fix
of.
all of these?
Well, sort of. The ordinance we passed and the resolution passed established this board essentially as a transition team
Right,
with a hard decision that the sheriff would be taking it over on January 1st and this board would dissolve.
and that's what we need to look at.
And so the sheriff is not ready to do that and we're not ready for the sheriff to take it over. In the next 6 months, this board can work with the sheriff, work with Mr. Bivens, work with the, mayor's team to give recommendations of, under the current ordinance, recommendations of where we think we should go. But the current ordinance as written says the sheriff will take it over at some point. And this board is merely the role and responsibility to transition and clean up and help support the eventual future use. So we are much more of a recommendation with an end result unless we change that ordinance and that resolution, which could be changed.
And that, I guess, maybe is what I'm kind of leading to here. I know practically that we have to have the involvement of the sheriff's office. I understand legally that we have to have the sheriff's office involved. That doesn't necessarily mean that they need to do the whole pot.
Right, and that's
So
what we're gonna consider for the next agenda,
Okay, so I'm getting ahead of you.
a little bit.
All right. I just want to keep our focus where it needs to be on, we're not fixing all of this, but we're gonna be sure we facilitate the best option for where it does go.
And I do know that the mayor is also going to be having conversations with the state as the state continuously needs more resource, more space.
Right.
And we have this facility. I do know that the mayor's team is going to be meeting, with the governor to talk about, capital needs and what are those needs and are there resources to help support Knox County in those needs. So I think and that budget cycle obviously is right now. The governor's budget comes out, in the spring. Our budget, Mayor Jacobs' last budget will be in the spring. So during this time, I think it is really critical for us to continue to say, we want to push in this direction and the sheriff and what is the new recipe gonna look like? What does the funding model look like? And what are the resources? I would hope that if the state needed the resource that we have here, that they would help catch up on some of the things that are needed. Security issues, staff, physical hardware issues, maybe renovation issues if we are going to use part of it for a different way. They need to be a partner in this as well.
So the question then becomes, how quick can we get those answers?
I would.
Government's not known to move fast in any.
Yeah, but when it's tied to a budgetary line item, we'll know the determination of that because it has a finite time period between now and April. I mean, all those budget decisions will happen between now and April. So if it's asking the state for X dollars to do with capital needs, we'll know that pretty
Or our
quickly.
county or anyone. Yeah. Okay.
I guess I have a question about, sort of tied to Shane's, if we're gonna have a new sheriff and a new mayor in September, how that's gonna work. Cause this sheriff and this mayor could make this obligation, but then come September.
We do that every single day in Knox County and we will continue to do it every election cycle. We have to make decisions for what's best for Knox County, for the juveniles that we support, for the operations we have, and make the best decisions and hope that any future administration, I would hope that any future mayor or sheriff would welcome us handling the heavy lifting of cleaning up and refreshing before they came in to have to tackle that. So, but it happens all the time and we'll just do our best.
Because, and maybe, I don't know if this information was shared with everyone, the fact that the sheriff's department or some legal entity does in fact have to be involved. That it cannot be, it cannot be like totally taken over like by Helen Ross McNabb or any like mental health. There's got to be that legal component involved, which I'm
But it
not.
could be a board.
Well, it has been, but not,
I don't think it.
I think we're learning that that is not the best
Yeah,
practice.
it has to be the license, bonded.
Yeah. It's about
legal,
who has the custody of a
licensed
juvenile in the
entity,
state.
yeah.
I had one other question for Mr. Hart. When you looked at the assessment of this, you compared it to the national, tell me again, the National
Institute
Detention
of Corrections.
Institute of Corrections.
For the staffing.
Did you look at other facilities in the state of Tennessee as sort of a benchmark model and say, you know, this is one that is run well and optimal as an example in the state of Tennessee, and we need to get to that level?
No, sir. Again, my primary experience is jails, and so the last couple of years, I've been starting to get into some juvenile detention centers. So no, sir, but the model, one question that I thought you were headed to is there truly sort of a good model of a staff to resident ratio out there that seems to really work? And the answer is no, because there's so many different functions. The design, some have a school inside a facility like you do, some don't. Some of the investment in some of the support functions that I mentioned, and compliance and classification, and FDO, so it's sort of different. I think you have an opportunity here to be that model across the state. And I'm actually excited to sort of see this report that comes out from TASER in January to see what their view of the world of juvenile detention needs and practices will be.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further questions on item number 7, we're going to move to item number 8. McNabb Center has been a partner in this for quite some time and a partner to Knox County for many, many years, and helping support every number of mental health support, homeless support, stability, crisis management, and we're here to welcome Rona Blanton-Kitts and her team from the McNabb Center to do a presentation and a proposal to this board.
So you all know, we began providing some services at September 1st, really, our staff, with Chief Gibbons and his staff. And I'm going to start off by telling you who we're seeing that kind of help, kind of guide where our proposal and our recommendations come from. So we've seen every new admission that has come through and done a screening and an assessment. So that's right around 50 kids. It's probably a little bit more this past week, but that's what was as of last week. Of those 50 children, some of you already know this, and it's not a surprise to anybody, 90% of those children came in with a mental health diagnosis. So prior to getting into Knox County detention, they had a mental health diagnosis. The other 10% we diagnosed. So our master's level clinicians or our psychiatric APN diagnosed. So right now, what we see there is every child in Knox County detention has a mental health diagnosis. So in saying that, we talked about this a little bit the last time that I was here. We have looked across the state and for best practice, and we have looked across the nation for best practices for juvenile detention centers. And what keeps coming up over and over is a blended model. That's kind of the words that are out there and how they describe. A blended model is that the safety and security, so what you were speaking about, needed typically would be overseen through a sheriff's department or another entity that is strictly bonded, safety, security focused. So that's the things like what the correctional officers are providing now. And then also the whole intake unit. So the booking, the fingerprinting, the charges and discussing those things. Then the other components can be pulled in from other players. So mental health, school system, Department of Health for the physical care can all be pulled in, which makes that blended system. And I think that's exactly what's happening now since Chief Gibbons is here and since we've started moving forward in a different way is the blended model without us calling it the blended model. So that is really what is best practice across the nation for youth detention facilities. The McNabb Center, what we would propose is, one, is to formalize mental health services in the detention facility. And we've run numbers off today's kids, so not anything other than 30 is the cap right now that we really run the numbers off based on this past year. And that would be putting 4.5, almost 5 mental health professionals in detention that would see the kids daily, continue the assessments and the intakes, and that would provide individual therapy, group therapy, and psychiatric services, including medication services, diagnosing. Just to give you an idea, and I know we talked about it last time, I'm just going to reinforce. I keep getting the question, well, what can you do in 7 days? Can you really make a difference? And so when you are able to work with kids, even for 7 days, even for 4 days, 3 days, skill-based training and therapeutic services is what works. And yes, it can make a difference in 7 days, 10 days, 30 days, whatever that case may be. And then providing any type of therapeutic intervention, even if it is for as little as 3 days, can make a difference for that child moving forward. The other component that is very important and makes detention facilities a little bit different and would make this one a little bit different is what we would call reentry services. So when kids leave this detention facility. And that's really where you can make a huge difference. What we want to stop is recidivism. What we want to keep kids from doing is coming right back into the system. So having components that of services that would follow them when they leave. And typically that is for a short amount of time, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, to be able to get them linked back into the community, into outpatient services that are already existing, but across the county, to be able to provide them services when they're not here in detention. That's what the blended model looks like. So you have other services coming in, just exactly what is happening today. The other part of that we talked about is what does it look like if we have, this is just an example, the sheriff's department running the correctional piece, and then something like a not-for-profit or the McNabb Center running everything else that you heard Mr. Hart's report about. So that would be doing a private school in-house instead of having Knox County come in. Running everything from food services to other services through a different entity. Yes, that is possible. And we're happy to talk about that moving forward, especially if we have more time to do that. And I think that either one of those models is good. I don't think that model has happened anywhere across the nation, so we can't really see what it looks like. Again, the experts would say best practice is the blended model. So corrections run and a superintendent type run the health facility with other comparable services coming in to assist.
Okay, so there's really 3 models in total. One is a model that is completely run by the sheriff's office, top to bottom. A blended model that a blended model that is correctional and operations with services, an outside group. And then there's a third model that is purely just the correctional and then everything else under the third group.
Another.
Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Sort of 3 options ahead of us? What are the pros and cons of each of those?
So, we'll start with the cons, because they might be easier. The cons with it just being the sheriff's, and not just the sheriff's department, or another correctional type, running everything without the blended model is going to be close to what you probably had prior to Chief Bivens and his team coming in. So, nothing other than having kids here and really just boarding kids in their rooms without other services is what that would be. It's a correctional approach only. So no rehabilitation. cons to the model of corrections type run corrections, and then you have a not-for-profit come in to run the other component is who's in charge. The con is gonna be who between those two, is it the superintendent, and are they over all the ancillary services? So that's the biggest con in that one. And the blended model doesn't have any. It's all pros.
So the correctional versus operational model, you're saying the con is who, the cons on that, or the, you know, the deficits of that is who's in charge?
Who's
Because,
in charge, and it's probably gonna cost more,
The costs.
so the cost.
because you've got, well, if I went back and thought about what you said, a bonded, licensed bonded security staff that deals with the safety, the intake, the booking, the movement, going back and forth to court, the post side of booking, I guess the booking in, booking out, and the kind of lockdown of the juveniles. And then you've got the other side, which is the operational side, which could be food service, janitorial, you know, paper towels and toilet paper.
Education.
Right, but I mean, operationals of the building itself, which could include HVAC,
That's
and I mean, literally everything that goes into just running a building. And then the mental health side, the education side, the nursing side, everything else that would be
Primary care.
primary, yeah. All of that would be under one bucket under, well, not, tell me, so that's the correctional and operational model. Tell me the blended model again. The sheriff does all the operational and correctional side, and then just the services are done?
That's right. Then it is contracting with and or pulling in other services. So Knox County Schools continues to come in to provide the school piece.
Which is great for Knox County students, but we don't only have Knox County students here. And if we're gonna use the facility, we might have students from everywhere.
They provide for the others, they're here too.
Okay.
If they're in Knox County.
Yeah.
Yeah, once they're here, they're Knox County is
They don't-
responsible.
They don't distinguish who, where they're from.
Okay.
They don't say this is a Scott County kid, we're not teaching her. They don't do that.
They'll reach out to Scott County Schools and say, well,
Got
that
it.
student's
Okay.
at it, and then move forward with it.
I'll say the blended model, for me, it sounds optimal, even though there are a couple moving parts. Because if you think about the population today, if 90% of them have undiagnosed or diagnosed issues, which were probably the undiagnosed issues that got them in the facility to begin with, to you know, take them on that path of acting out, so to speak. And so if we're giving them the help that they need on the front end, and as they leave a facility, and for several months as they acclimate back to home, then it's all better for them. It
Absolutely.
costs us a little bit more, but it's better for them because that child may not, because of the services provided along this path, may never come back again. Versus a recidivist, well, sure, we're crossing our fingers, but that has more of an impact toward recidivism than a classic housing system. So.
Does it blend it cost more?
A blended cost, no. It will be the cheapest of all the options, most likely.
How's that the case? Because
It
you've got the
depends on-
sheriff already having to run the facility as a whole with all the staffing, which is our
Well-
current budget, and then you're adding another layer
Well,
of.
the cheapest would be continuing what you would do.
Correct, so it will
Okay,
cost
so that's what
more.
I mean by that. So then, yes, contracting with other agencies to come in will cost more. It wouldn't be anything near if you have two different agencies operating in the same place.
And I hear you proposing a blended model if
That would be
that
my
were to be brought in as a partner,
Yes.
a paid partner.
Is it fairly, and this is a question for, I guess, anybody here. Is it fairly identifiable, each of those segments of what you do, all the things you've been dealing with? When you think of, the security and the key system and the doors and the check-in process and all, if you were to go through every bit of the budget and every bit of all your reports, is it easy to sort of pick those and put them into two different buckets? Or are there some gray areas, and maybe that's not a question we can answer this second, but, and maybe it's a proposal from you all saying, here's exactly what we would provide and what we would not do. But is it,
I'll need several buckets.
yeah.
The security aspect, I walked through the facility last week. There's a lot to the security aspect of running a detention center. A lot. I don't think that, I may be wrong, I don't think that she really wants to break up fights and strip search kids when they come in, looking for weapons, things of that nature. So, and I know she doesn't want to run policies and procedures for me or fix my key system. If you do, please let me know.
So do you all have a proposal for the blended model, or is it?
Well, our proposal for the mental health services, we do have that
Okay,
today for you, and it's based off 780 kids, so they're up to a maximum of 30. So what we would propose this is for mental health services, is that 4.5 mental health workers in the current pods that we're currently running, and that gives you 2 master's level clinicians, 2 bachelor's level clinicians, psychiatric nurse practitioner, and then some infrastructure, some supervisor that covers those shifts. But that's every child being seen, either through individual or through groups every day.
Quick question. I'm not familiar with what you can and can't do at each one of those levels, but there'll be a prescriber there?
Prescriber, that's right, yes. Yeah. Not every day, it would be 1 day a week. But
Definitely a need.
huge need.
so under the blended model, I guess this is, and this may be a future meeting or workshop or something, but you've got to think through, are you all handling all the nursing and medication versus the sheriff's team, security team? Are you handling all of the, certainly all the mental health side, but all of the education side, all of the, what piece are you specifically handling that is not part of his role and responsibility? Is that clearly defined in your proposal or to be determined?
So in this proposal, it is just the mental health piece.
Okay.
So not the nursing piece, not the school piece. Those things could be added, but I think if you've got Knox County coming in and it's working, you use Knox County because you're not paying anymore. Right, that's part of their responsibility is take care of Knox County kids.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to add education to the budget.
Okay.
You're already paying for it once, because those kids come out of Knox County School, so
Already.
you're paying for them anyway.
Okay, are you leaving us with something to digest? Okay. Hand it over.
Oh, is this the whole thing for it?
No, just 1 page.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to walk through this, or do you want to?
It's exactly what I just said.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
it's nothing that, it's just a summary of that.
It really is all about the blended model.
Okay.
So how would that work? You all are already responsible for mobile crisis anyway. That's already a Helen Ross McNabb owned entity, correct?
Yeah.
So how does that interface if you're providing the services? Still provide mobile crisis to yourself? I mean, how does that work?
Yes, yeah, we do that all across the whole agency. So if we need to call mobile crisis, then we'll call them. If not, the crisis team is already in the detention facility, we would use them, and we wouldn't have to go through mobile crisis.
So with this plan, there would still have to be outside, like nurses or what, coming in to do the medicine.
What about the free stuff that's already going on back there? Could you cooperate with that and include that in your programming, or would that be eliminated if you guys would be in total control? So we already got some services that we're not paying for. We have the habit dogs coming twice a week. We've got initial introductory evaluations being done by our 4 graduate students that we get in Dr. Bly's program. And are we gonna lose those resources if we go all the way with Ross McNabb, or are we gonna work together? How's that gonna work?
I don't think you would lose those. I think that they're, right now, what we have in, I think that they would all work together. I wouldn't,
But those are free. I mean,
Yeah.
I hate to give away something that's
I wouldn't
free.
recommend anything that's adding value to the children in detention, so I think that could be
I think
in
there,
addition to.
there probably is a balancing act though of how many people we have. I know one of the things that happens a lot at our schools is there's so many groups doing so many interventions and so many
Yeah.
programs that there ends up being a layer of 15 people deep, and that's detrimental. So I
We got, we got a lot of partners here.
Okay. Does this recommendation come with detail and budget and other
Do you
things?
want- do you want
Today,
us
is
to
that
hand
today?
it out? Yeah, do you want us to hand it to you, or you want me to talk about it?
Any way you cut it.
How about give it to us and talk about it at the same time? We gotta digest a lot anyway. We got a 90-page report to digest, so bring it on.
So you've got 2 options on here, because I want to give you 2 options. So one is, and then what we've done is told you number of full-time staff, and then just giving you what it costs for those benefits and salaries, and then operational costs. So, the first one is very minimal. It's putting in, I think, 2.5 staff. And the second one is really our recommendation. So that's where the 5.5 staff come, and where staff are in every single day and providing those services that we talked about.
One of these positions include like an aftercare.
Aftercare, yes, 2 are. So the 2
Explain aftercare.
what we talked about, reentry. So
Oh,
once they leave here.
after the release,
Yes,
after
once
release
they-
care,
yeah.
okay.
Once they, so
I
it
was
would be.
like, after they go to school and during the day.
So, and providing services while they're here to make all those linkages and work with the families, work with whoever their support system is, but then specifically once they leave. So that's 2 bachelor's level positions. The other 2 are master's level positions. And then 1 day a week of the psychiatric nurse practitioner, which is your medical provider that would come in.
So both of these are attached, both of these budgetary line items are attached to the blended model
That's correct.
only.
That's right.
And one is,
If you want to, that's right.
one is full freight and one is, but this is based upon the average of 30 kids.
That's right.
So if they're, what if we took this facility, caught up on all the structural, caught up on all the security and, staffing and everything, and other counties said,
We're gonna pay
we would rather pay you than operate our own, or we don't have our own and we would rather, and we're serving kids from any number of counties. What is it scalable to, is it double for 60 kids
It's
and
not
double for?
double. It's not
So
double.
what
if
is
you look at- If you look at both of those, the operational costs for each are the same, so it really does not double. It really would go every, a minimum of 15 kids up to 30, so that's how you have to keep it to scale. So it's hard to do a daily rate for these 2, but really, if you broke it down, it's easy to do. It's $128 a day.
What about weekend and nights? The predecessor here was really fond of reminding us all we never close. We're here all the time, and we are. This place is open 24/7. There are mental health needs that go on at 3 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Eve. There are mental health needs that go on Easter morning. What about those times?
So this model does not provide 24/7. I mean, that would be a little bit different, and I'm not sure we need it, but I think that Chief Gibbons can speak to that. If we do, then I think that we figure that out. I mean, I think that that's part of the assessment moving forward, and if there are high utilizer times, we would call those, then it doesn't have to be an 8 to 5 shift that these clinicians provide. It can be, but I'm not sure, that's a huge expense to do 24/7. So I don't hear you saying, or maybe you are, saying 24/7.
I'm just asking, what happens if something goes off at night?
Yeah,
Well, is that part of the CIT team? Is that part of, I mean, are you all essentially an on-call partner as well as
we absolutely.
the routine and,
Yeah.
you know, but this is where any kind of formal arrangement has to be outlined of all those things
That's
because
right.
you can only budget a certain fixed line item or a contingency thereafter, you know, versus getting a bill after the fact.
That's right.
So,
So I think that as we move forward and we continue to assess, then we'll know exactly, do we need to always have a clinician here? Is it really, do we need a 24/7? Or is that really just not a great utilization of resources and it's really during these hours that is the highest need? But I think that
Miss Dr. Blasting, how many people is that? My back is still, I don't know. Oh, hey,
It's her and four,
It's
usually
four minimum,
four minimums, you're 4 to 6
and
interns.
3 PhDs that are
okay,
free from the University of Tennessee.
4 or 6 people,
So
4,
seven, actually, 4 and 3.
4 and 3, and then 2 proposed or 4. We got to think through that.
There's one for every kid.
So Mona, you're talking about a caseload of about seven per clinician?
they would, so think of it as a master's level and a bachelor's level would share 15. So yes, it could be 7, but they would get both of those services.
And are you thinking they're going to be like 8 to 5 people?
Not necessarily. I think that that's something we could talk through. We're used to running residential programs, and so we're used to providing services 24/7, and so our clinicians are used to that as well. So it doesn't have to be 8 to 5 if that's not the need.
Is there other info coming to us before I? Okay, she got a bunch of paperwork in there, I didn't know, what else?
I come prepared with my folder.
Okay, I just double
The other
checked.
day.
All right, other questions? Certainly part of the digestion of where we are as a board, but any questions for right now?
So this 700,000 is for what time frame?
Per year?
Yeah, annually.
Annually.
Yeah.
So the other things add to it, right? Personnel.
That's all in.
That's all in, this is
It's
top
in the
line.
top, okay.
That's all.
It's all in there.
Okay.
That's total cost.
But I guess an emergency is a big thing.
Well, emergency's not baked in, but like to Judge Irwin's
They're already on the hook
remark,
for
we already do
emergencies.
that,
So,
yeah.
okay,
We already do that.
Okay, it's called mobile process.
Yeah.
Mobile process is already on the hook for that, it's another division of
Yeah.
Eleanor.
Something we're already in the, you know.
That's right, the county already invested.
So summarize for me why this is a different approach from where we are today. Today, we are in essentially a corrections model, run right now by this board to be potentially run by the sheriff in a purely correctional sense. Tell me summarize for us why this blended model is better for the juveniles we serve, for the county that supports and invests in this place, and for the long-term outlook of everybody in the community.
So first, I do want to say, I do think we're moving already to a blended model. So even before any of these things become formalized. You know, I think that we can just house kids, which is what we've done. And then I think that it's a captured audience for us, right? So you have kids and you have them for, whether it's 3 days, 7 days, 30 days, a year, you know, whatever it might be. It's our opportunity to be able to help shape, help grow, and help them on that journey. We've already talked about 100% that are in the facility right now have a mental health diagnosis. They also, you know, one of the things that we know we've talked about is, one of the major deterrents from recidivism is education. So being able to educate children at any given time is for the adult system as well, but also for our juveniles, is that's education and their mental health needs being met, keep them from returning back into the system. So that's why it's good for both community and then them as well. I think that whether we are the first in the state to do it, or I think it will happen eventually. I think that this is the model that hopefully the Department of Human Services will move to. I think it'll take a while to get there, but I think that we would be setting the standard for the state if we formalized and move forward in this area.
You know any actual facilities that are actually following this model that we could reach out to?
So the Missouri model, so we talked about that a little bit earlier, and so it is really a blended model. It's not any different than what you are doing right now, what you've started doing by pulling people into it.
But actually facilities that have implemented this and shown success.
So,
There might be a couple in Nashville. I can make a couple of phone calls and get information back to you.
let me say one thing I didn't say earlier. I said it last time I spoke, but I want to make sure that the worst, what people would say is the least best practice is to contract with a private for-profit company.
That's what
to
Nashville
provide.
does.
That is, yeah, and Memphis. So that is the least favorable to do for juveniles in detention facilities.
You don't know of any nonprofit facilities that use nonprofit?
I do not.
Could you, I think it would be helpful if you did some more research. I also think it would be helpful for this board. You mentioned the Missouri model. If there's a white paper
Yeah.
or some sort of information you could share with this board, you could send any of that information to the commission office and it'll be distributed. I think we're always looking for how do we make it better? And, but we are also limited in time and resources, and we're also, government by default is a fairly risk-averse operation. That does it the way they've done it for the sake that they've done it. But perhaps there's other options ahead.
Is there any option for third-party pay with these kids if they're already coming in with the diagnosis? And I mean, they should.
Most of them are on tenure.
Well, that's third-party pay. I don't know. Is that?
Judge, they're not adjudicated yet when they're in detention.
Sometimes they are. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. The ones that stay the longest are, of course, the more serious matters where the lawyers that represent them have made a decision, we need to have this child studied to determine whether or not they can legally stand trial or how impaired they are. And those studies take a long time. And so we have 2 back there that are going to be there a year. Most of them get adjudicated and then we wait for DCS to take them, which is a month, 45 days, 60 days, 3 months. So they also stay a while. But most of the kids that come in, the vast majority get released the next morning. The second biggest class gets released after just a few days.
Yeah. So if you're adjudicated already, Teen Care will not pay. But if we have kids in there who are not adjudicated,
Those kids are in there for the year long, and you can maybe get some money back out of Teen Care.
yeah, that could be
I would guesstimate that's probably 8% regrowth.
Well, right now it is because you made DCS get all the kids and take them home. But before that, no, it'd be about half and half probably.
But I love the,
Considerable amount though.
I like the question of, we have to think of, it's hard to swallow, but we are running an operation and we have to think of revenues and expenses and we have to think of resources and expenditures every day. And so if there are options for more support, whether it be Teen Care, DCS, other counties, then we have to consider.
Even private pay.
Yeah, well,
I mean, we might have some kids, they got
I think that
many, but I don't mean private pay, I mean private insurance pay.
I've heard
Yeah.
an uninformed sentiment out there that disturbs me to think that a county of 500,000 people could make it without a detention center and could ostensibly rely on other smaller counties to house our kids. That's ludicrous. I would be spending all my time on the phone every day trying to beg some detention center somewhere else to take a Knox County kid. We have to make what we got here work. When we're 500,000 people strong, we're gonna have a need to detain a juvenile sometimes. We do a really low percentage. When DCS used to be divided in 2 divisions, years ago, JJ and the guy that ran the JJ division came and said, I wanna know how you do this, Judge Irwin. You have the lowest detention rate in the state. He said, let me take that back. It's the lowest detention rate per capita in America. And I don't know if we're still there, but we're very low for a city our size of kids back there. We want to stay that way, but to think that we can make it without one, there's no way I could ever see that happen.
Agreed. I think we're past that point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just
I'm glad you said that.
hear some sentiment out there, and I wanted to make sure people understood my view on that, because I don't think we can make it without one.
So these costs are on top of what the sheriff's budget would be.
That's right.
And are there grants? I think I asked you
Good
that.
question. Yeah, so yes, so there are, Judge Irwin just signed a partnership grant with us the other day that we're applying for. So there are grants out there. We're right now operating in detention off of the Tennessee Resiliency Project grant, it's TRP is what it's called. And so after we all have talked, and I thought that we might be extending the time until July 1, I spoke with our contacts with the Department of Mental Health, and so we can continue what we're doing through June 30th.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
yeah, to give everybody more time to decide what direction
Good.
we want.
Grants are good. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's not that pressure there as far as like mental health not being in, our part of mental health not being in.
Okay. Thank you for that update. Other questions for Ellen Ross we have right now? I think we're gonna walk away with immediately begin amassing questions, but that's why we have board meetings and that's why we get together. So thank you for the opportunity to
Thank you.
digest all this and to hear some options out of us. Okay, now get back to our agenda quickly and take up item number 6. Once again, I'm asking this board to consider extending ordinance and resolution that formed this board to extend it to July 1. And I'll open up. Commissioner Hill, you had a motion to approve that, and Lee a second. Would you like to hold on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the extension? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. That recommendation will be sent to the county commission as a whole at our November agenda, and we'll do the legal paperwork to extend that through July 1, or June 30th, excuse me. Okay, is there other new business to come before us today? Yes?
I have one item of new business.
Yes, sir.
I want to promote November 14th in this very building. We will be having our annual chili cook-off and basket auction.
No, Friday, November 14th?
Friday, November 14th, everyone's invited. Also, that money that's raised for that event goes to aid children in foster care. Sometimes children get their clothing allowance and then they grow 3 inches that fall. Sometimes grandmom can keep children from going into social service custody, but they just need bunk beds. So that money is handled by the Compassion Coalition, and you apply for that in grants, and it helps us keep kids from going into social service custody and buying a tank of gas, helping somebody with a heat bill. It's a very good cause, and it'll be November 14th. There's a chili cook-off. There's some detention chili traditionally that's been made, a big part of that, and sandwiches and a brief auction, and it's a good time. So we'd love to have it. That'll be at noon on November 14th.
And all the public is welcome?
Everybody.
Okay.
Bring your checkbook.
And how much money do you traditionally raise and what's your goal?
well, I don't raise money, I'm an elected judge.
For everybody
People
that
who run the
participates.
meeting, who participate, they raise money, I think they raise about, 20 to 30,000, I think, from the event.
Okay.
They have a grant that helps with that too, but they do a good job, and Compassion Coalition folks keep a good accounting for us, and Karen Broadnax from DCS helps us address areas of need and point to where the kids that need us are. It's worked out pretty good. It's a pretty fun morning too. There's a lot of interesting items.
So you need auction items to be donated and
Sure.
people to show up and buy those.
It's a place for aspiring politicians to be seen as well.
We don't have any of those here.
Yeah.
All right, our upcoming board meetings, just as a reminder, for the end of this calendar year will be November 13th and December 16th. I will work on a 2026 calendar, and I will work on coordinating all of that. I think it's a Tuesday at 2 has been kind of our pattern, but we'll go through the calendar and the judge's calendar and try to come up with something. I think that November 13th, I think this board, in my opinion, should certainly digest the entire CTAS report. We should digest the proposal by the McNabb Center. I know that we'll need to have follow-up conversations with the mayor's office and their conversations with the state, with the sheriff's office and their transition team, on where they are and what their thoughts are on this. But I do believe that, you know, in November and December, we need to start making critical decisions about, you know, what are our goals and what are we want to pursue. But we also have to include the mayor's office, the sheriff's office, Mr. Bivens, Judge Irwin, all the partners at the table. So whereas we thought our job would be done June 30th, we have, or December 31st, we got some heavy lifting to do as a board. So I know we can do it. Any other things to come before the board today? Seeing
I'll
none.
invite the local partners from the Department of Children's Services to these meetings. I'd specifically invite them, let them hear these discussions too. I think that'd be a good idea.
We have, they did come once.
Well, okay.
I'll see if I can help improve these minutes.
All right, seeing none other business, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.